Welcome to Fear Free Human. If you're here on the site, it's because you are interested in finding out how to use your internal guidance system, or possibly somebody just said you've got to check this out. Either way, I want to let you know that I'm really excited that you're here, you're in the right place. This is an extraordinary tool that I want to share with you today. You see, what I discovered about 23 years ago is that every single person has an internal guidance system. Now you might be like, duh, of course, I know this, or I know we all have some inner guidance in there, but I mean, there is a active guidance system that's physically in your body that you have been feeling your entire life every single day. Anytime that you've had a lump in the throat, a tight feeling in your chest, which right now we're calling anxiety, the sensation of worry, overwhelm, frustration, irritation, to just name a few, or if you've ever had that rock sick feeling kind of in the solar plex area, high up in the stomach, where it feels like it's like churning or upset. These sensations are physical guidance, and they're always in the relationship to one thing, and that is what you are thinking. Okay, so what I mean by that is you'll have a thought. Let's say you get an email that comes in on a Friday afternoon and your boss says he wants to talk to you on Monday, right? And your whole weekend, you're concerned because you don't know what it's about. Your immediate response to things like this in life is, oh no, I'm in trouble. Does that sound to ring a bell? What happens when that happens? Well, you usually will show up with some tightness in your chest or that sick feeling in the solar plex, and you can't get it to go away. Your mind will often run on and on and on, no matter how much you want to be present with your life, your family, the activities that you're doing over the weekend while you're waiting for Monday. You are in this realm of having your mind hijacked you. This is just one example of mental fear. Another example of mental fear is constantly being concerned of running out of money, or being worried about your adult child who's not doing so well, or you're concerned for your elderly parents that's running around in the background, right? Mom falls again, and you know that you're going to have to put her in a home, but you know that you're fighting with your siblings about when is that going to happen, and how is that going to happen, and who's going to take care of her. These are all the things that cause mental fear in our lives. I define mental fear different than I do physical fear. Mental fear is what I've been talking about. The things, the suffering that happens inside of your head as you're going about your life, trying to figure out how to manage everything in your life. And the way that we handle this, which we've called stress, all stress relates back to fear, actually, a mental fear, which I can explain to you. The way that we handle stress is programmed into us between the ages of 0 and 7. It's the reactions that we've had to the world around us and us watching other people's reactions to stress, worry, anxiety, overwhelm, life's challenges and trials. We pick that up and then we carry it into our adult lives. And so your knee-jerk reaction to things may feel as if it's just a part of your personality, right? But the truth of the matter is that these things are things that can be easily changed. And when you understand how to use your internal guidance system, these sensations in your body, what happens is it becomes really easy to break into new patterns. It becomes really easy to get rid of old habitual patterns. So this is what it looks like. You're sitting in a meeting, you are feeling as if you're not being heard. You want to speak up, but you're a little nervous about it. You've had your ideas shot down in the past. You're insecure about your contribution in the company. And this is just an example for one person. You can relate this to being at your in-laws' house. You can relate this to being in a PTA meeting, and you can relate this to any aspect of your life. So take what I'm saying right now and look and think about situations where this kind of feeling happens to you. You feel tight inside. You want to speak up, but there is an anxiety there. Okay, that anxiety that you're feeling actually is guidance from your internal guidance system that what you're thinking isn't true. And what you're thinking is, if I speak up, I'm going to sound stupid, or my ideas have been shot down in the past, or they're not going to like what I have to say, or I'm not good enough. Whatever it is that's going on in the background that's stopping you from participating fully, from giving your contribution fully, that unique thing that is just yours, right? You're getting guidance on. You feel the tightness. With training, and it happens really fast, all that needs to happen is you learn how to shift your thinking until this releases. When this tension releases, and it releases instantly, it's actually really amazing. I'm going to walk you through it here in a minute. When this tension releases, you actually know that what you're thinking is going to be successful. I'm going to say that again. When you find the thought and the tension releases, the actual action that you're there to take is going to be successful. We call the release of tension an opening. And so what happens is you can learn to go from fear to flow. So there are different types of fear, two in particular, and then there's our responses to fear. So I've been talking about mental fear, the things that happen inside your head that goes on and on and on that take you away from being present in your life on a daily basis, right? Well, there's also physical fear, of course. If a tiger were to jump out, or a snake that's poisonous runs across your path while you're hiking, or that truck driver swerves into your lane on the freeway, you're going to have that immediate physical fear. But the difference is that physical fear, when the danger has been removed, goes away. Mental fear will look for the next danger. And when that danger, maybe it's the bill that you didn't believe you could pay, and then the money comes in and you pay it, then that danger is removed, but your mind still searches for the next danger thing, hooks onto it, and then begins to ruminate on it over and over and over. That is the mental fear I'm talking about. Physical fear, yeah, it's here to keep you safe. Mental fear is old programming that actually is guidance when you feel the fear sensation, is guidance that what you're thinking isn't going to be a successful thought pattern for you to hold. It's not going to be something that's actually, if you take action, when you're in a closed state, when you're in a mental fear state, your actions will not be successful. You will cause chaos because closing begets closing, and it causes disharmony and discord in your life. So let me explain to you that there's different reactions that we have to fear, and you may have several of these reactions, okay? We've all heard about fight, flight, or freeze, right? And how that happens when we're in a fearful situation. Well, it happens on a daily basis when you're with your mental fear. Your response is what we call your stress defense. You have stress themes, and these are things that always stress you out. Maybe you're stressed about being late all the time. Maybe you're stressed about not showing up and fitting in. Maybe you feel like you're an outsider, right? Maybe you're stressed out about saying the wrong thing. Maybe you're constantly stressed out or have anxiety around a reaction to with somebody in your life. Let's say you've got a mother-in-law or a sister, daughter-in-law. You've got people in your life, coworkers, right? That when you're around them, it's uncomfortable. You're constantly in an anxious state. You can't seem to be authentically yourself. Maybe you have that feeling around finances as you're moving through your life and you're trying to purchase the things that you need and save the money and do the things that you need to do. And your mind is constantly ruminating about how you don't have enough money. Maybe it's your health. Okay. Maybe it's that every little ache and pain, your mind starts worrying about it's some dire thing that's going to actually take you out in life, right? We all have it. You have your unique things. I know for me, one of mine was that people were always talking behind my back. It was just something that my mom believed the neighbors were doing. And so my mind became hyper alert for people that didn't like me and were talking behind my back. Another one for me was if people didn't text me back or return my phone call, I would get stressed out and think about my mind actually would get stressed out and try to think about all the things that I could have done wrong that has them not returning my call. And then lo and behold, they would return my call and nothing would be wrong. We all have these unique mental fears. These are stress themes. Then we also have our stress defense. What happens when we are in the stress theme? Okay. How do we react to it? So I know for me, mine was, I'm going to take my toys and go home. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. For some people, they get really aggressive, right? They get angry at the person for not returning their calls. Maybe some people, they disassociate. You have a stack of bills on your desk that you won't open because you just can't deal with the fact that there's money issues going on. So you ignore your money. You disassociate, you stay away from it. I know that you can go and you can try to overwork when you're in a mental fear state, right? And you're in your stress theme around money. Maybe your go-to stress defense is to work, and sacrifice everything at home and sacrifice all your relationships or your health. We all have stress themes and stress defenses, and these are programs. These are things that will be with you for the rest of your life unless you take action to end them. Now, I discovered this internal guidance system. It was by accident, really. What happened was I had a very challenging childhood. There was several things that happened from sexual abuse to verbal abuse in the physical abuse in the home. I had really gotten to this place where I was self-sabotaging out of anger and rage that I'd had from my childhood. And so I emancipated myself from my family, and I believed that by doing that, my problems would all go away. Well, lo and behold, my problems followed me. My family had helped me to become the problem myself. And so I'm not blaming them, but I do have to say that we all are now the products of our upbringing. And it's our job not to blame, but to fix it. And one of the ways that I wanted to fix it was to run away. Like I said, take my toys and go home. So as I went out into the world, I started sabotaging my life. I would, quit a job because I had been criticized, or get in a fight with my roommate for some reason and then say, I'm going to move out. That's fine. And the next day I would come back and be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get in a fight. I don't want to move out. And my roommate would be like, no, go. And there I am living in my car. And a really dear friend of mine saw that I was sabotaging myself and gave me a little cassette tape from somebody that was very not known at all. It was very different kind of cassette. It was from a woman by the name of Esther Hicks. She was channeling Abraham Hicks. And my friend wanted to show me, this was back in 1993, before they were even a thing. My friend wanted to show me about the law of attraction. But on the tape, it was this interesting thing because she was just in the living room and people were just asking her questions. And one of the questions that a person asked is, how do you have the most successful life? And she said, if you have an expanded feeling in your body, then that means that what you're thinking is carrying you towards your optimal life trajectory, that you are actually creating what you were here to create, and your life will turn out well. And if you have a tight, closed down feeling, that means that what you're thinking is not true and is not going to be successful, and you are going to go and create what you do not want to have in the world. Well, I knew that every time that I created something that I didn't want, I felt that tight feeling. I felt that sick feeling in my stomach area and my chest, and I would take action out of it. But I didn't know how to stop that. I didn't know how to think anything different. So I went on a search to figure out what this expanded and contracted feeling was. And over the course of about 10 years, I began to follow this. I went from high school dropout to being a tech CEO in downtown San Francisco in the late 90s, and built with a team of people that were amazing, a multi-million-dollar tech company with an office in San Francisco and working out of London. And so this guidance system that I discovered and following the expansion feeling changed my life. It allowed me to walk into a boardroom in London with the company British Petroleum as a late 20 something, or knowing about tech, and be able to stand up and speak for myself, because any closing thought about I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, they're not going to listen to me, if it was closing, I knew how to shift it into an opening. And it allowed me to become my authentic, confident self, and also access wisdom and information and discernment that I didn't even know was possible. So what happened was, in the late 1990s, but actually right around the 2000 era, when the dot-com crash happened, I was continuing to use this internal guidance system and following my openings. And the people around me, who were my friends, whose tech companies were crashing, began asking me, how are you okay? We're devastated. We're destroyed. Our finances are a mess. Our companies are being closed down. The VCs are pulling money out. There's a mess everywhere. And you seem to be doing okay. And you're in the same spot. And I was like, well, I have this silly little tool. I call it the IGS, and I follow it. And they said, teach me. So I started teaching this in my living room, and here it is 24 years later, and I've mastered it. And I've taught over 40,000 people. And what is the most amazing thing about this is that every single human being has it, and they don't understand how the guidance really works. You see, we believe that if we feel bad inside, it's something outside of us that's making us feel that way. Our spouse comes into the house and says something, and we get this reaction inside where we close down and we're upset, or we're hurt, or we're angry, or we feel rejected, or, disrespected. And we have this reaction. And we believe that it's to what the spouse said. The truth of it is the interpretation in our head of what that person said that creates the reaction. It's never anything outside of you. It's always what you're thinking about the situation. And the only reason you feel that is if what you're thinking is wrong. Now, the really, really hard part about this That it took me years, 10 years, takes most people now anywhere from 1 to 4 months to begin really becoming good at this. It took me 10 years because you believe you're thinking. You have lots of evidence. Your mind collects evidence that your spouse is a jerk that when they do these things, or they don't care about you, or your boss is putting you down and won't promote you, or you and your daughter or your son are at odds and fighting, and it's never going to change. You collect evidence and circumstances to prove, your mind does, to prove what you're thinking. But I'm here to tell you, if you feel a tight feeling inside, what you're thinking is not true. And you will keep getting, excuse me, you will keep getting the same results in your life over and over and over because that reaction that you're having is not true. It's not actually the interpretation that's going to serve you. And you can learn by studying how to go into flow, how to go into the opening. Now, remember, I said we have different reactions. So there's the defense, and most of the stress defenses fall into 4 categories: fight, which where you get aggressive, you get upset, you attack the problem; flight, you disassociate, you hide, you run, you want to get out of there, abandon yourself, abandon others, right? Flight; freeze, you get stuck, you don't know what to do, right? And this is like when you don't to procrastinate, you don't take action on things, you don't move forward. And then fawn, and that's where you lose your power and you fawn all over the person that's in power. So maybe your boss, you think your boss is upset with you, you're stressed out, and so you start kissing their behind, right? And you're fawning all over them, or you fawn all over your husband, or you become the people pleaser, right? That's another stress defense, right? These are all listed out. But there's a fifth response, which is flow. And that flow is what happens when you go from an opening to a closing. Magic and synchronicity become the norm when you move into flow. Flow is literally stopping, feeling that closing feeling, knowing which way to turn, because there's different types of thinking, and each type of thinking that causes closing has an opening practice that I teach you so that you go, I'm frustrated. Oh, this is what frustration is. Where am I looking and seeing that something I don't believe, my mind doesn't believe something can ever change, and I'm closed. That means it can change. So now, what are the steps to take to look and find the new thought to open? That's basically what it is. And when you open, you're back into the flow of your life. Our life is supposed to be magic and synchronicity. It's supposed to be filled with miracles. If you look at the way this world really works, when you go out into nature, everything is in perfection. There's a unique, beautiful, synchronistic dance. Miraculously, everything gets fed. Everything comes to life. Seeds come up out of the ground every single winter after the freeze. Whales migrate. And I believe, every year birds migrate. How? I believe it's because they're moving into the opening. They can feel a pull that brings them into the synchronicity of where they need to be and when they need to be there. Which brings up my next point. In the 40,000 plus people I've worked with, what I've discovered is we all have a unique personal blueprint that is attuned to our life. And that this internal guidance system that we're all operating within, it's tuned into how to get us through that blueprint, that perfect, optimal, amazing life to the best of its ability. When you get a closing, it's not just about what you're thinking not being true or not happening. It's about the thinking that you're having is also taking you off of your optimal life's blueprint. There is something that only you can do. You have a unique significance and a place where you belong, and your contribution has to be made in order for everything, just like in nature, to work perfectly. And this closing and this opening, when you are following your openings, you are on your life's blueprint. It's an alignment system to your life's blueprint. When you are feeling closed, you are moving off of your ultimate life's blueprint. So when you have that tussle moment with your spouse, that optimal relationship between you and your spouse, if you're closed, your guidance system is telling you this thinking is not true, and it's keeping you away from your ultimate marriage, from your ultimate relationship with your husband, your coworkers, your family members, your children, yourself. the way that you feel about and the relationship you have with yourself, the relationship you have with the divine, with God. It is all encompassing, and it's paying attention to all of that for you. And so it's a lot easier to have your ultimate life than you think, because all it is managing the one thought that's closing you in the moment, finding the opening, and you're back in alignment and into the trajectory of your ultimate life. And you just do this in little steps with thoughts throughout your day. Now, there's a lot to this. The other thing that's happening, there's two other important things happening besides just aligning you to your personal blueprint. The other thing that's happening, when you get into alignment, you are giving your ultimate contribution, what you're here to be doing. And there is a divine energy to this. As you get out of the closing, which is ruminating, it causes you to think the same thoughts over and over and over and over. Have you ever had a situation where you can't stop thinking about it no matter how much you want to? It just keeps happening and happening. That is useless thinking. It is not creating anything in your life that you desire, especially if you're closed. So every time that you shift and you move into an opening and the trajectory aligns, you start a new neural pathway. The brain, those thoughts that keep going around and around in circle, when you break that, it's called a pattern interrupt in neurology. You do a pattern interrupt and you start a new trajectory, and the opening of the internal guidance system, which is leveraging the nervous system, starts an actual new neural pathway. And the old stress themes begin to go what we call neurally extinct. Your stress themes, the things that have been torturing you mentally your whole life, they begin to go extinct. They go away. I no longer even think about anybody talking behind my back, and I no longer have any concern if somebody doesn't text me back or call me back right away. If I even hold the thought that they're upset with me, I close, I know it's not true, and I let it go and I go on with my life. The productivity and the prosperity and the alignment with what you're here to do, it's the miracle is that the whole world is lining up around you to deliver your ultimate life. That's when these magical connections start happening. The right people, the resources, everything that you need comes into play. And you're doing it throughout your day. Every little closing, when you shift it, you're recreating your brain. You're recreating the neural pathways, and you begin to feel more authentically like yourself. You feel empowered, you feel calm, you feel centered, you feel aware of what you're supposed to be contributing. You have the confidence to do it because any uncertainty, any doubt about who you are is closing. So you fix that thought. The doubt gets shifted into an opening, and the old patterns of doubting yourself go away. Not being able to make a decision goes away. All of this begins to happen. And then there's the third thing, which is incredible. There's a divine wisdom that comes. This is not intuition. People like to think of say, but isn't this just intuition? It is not intuition. What I'm talking about is a guidance system that works the same way in every person. Okay. So I can train anyone to do it. Intuition is different in every person. Each person has a different way they tap into intuition. There's being an empath, which is reading the emotions and of the room. There's claircognizant, which is ideas that drop in. There's clairaudient, which when you're hearing things, or clairvisual, clairvoyant, which is visual. Each person has different ways where they get into their intuitive groove. And as you clear away the thoughts that are useless, the old habitual patterns that are just hijacking you, it opens up this new flowing energy where you actually tap into a source of wisdom. Things that you didn't even know you knew start coming into play. Your genius begins to come out. Your brilliance begins to come out because you are no longer wasting energy on the old type of thinking that doesn't serve you. And now you're in this creative flow where brand new, amazing things begin to come through you. Things that you'll be amazed are even there and that you get to be a part of. So all of this happens when you're using your internal guidance system. So I want to share with you I've got two ways that I train people in the beginning. We have two classes that you need to take in order to take any of the other classes. They're prerequisites. One is a 14-day video series. It's a FastTrack video series. You sign up for it. There's 14 days. And there's a practice, which gets you actually using the internal guidance system. The first couple of days is connecting your mind to the IGS so they know how to work together. And then the rest of the days are tools to get you out of that habitual thinking, the useless thinking, quickly. You'll see a massive difference in who you are and a reduction of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, fear, irritation, frustration, all that. You'll see a massive reduction. I'm saying between 70 to 85% of that will get eradicated in the first 14 days. You get a video, and with the practice, then you get an explanation of a deep dive into what the IGS is, the various principles on how this works, and then any challenges or solutions that somebody has with that practice. So if you get hung up, right, you get to, understand a little bit of what is maybe hanging you up with the practice. All right. So you get those 3 videos. They're all under 10 minutes. So it's less than like 30 minutes a day for 14 days. Your productivity goes up, your happiness, your joy, your ability to be intimate with others in a way that you probably will have never experienced before happens. And you will have an understanding of how to tap into this deep wisdom and be on your life's blueprint. You'll feel the difference of being on and off. You'll have practice in there about flow. How do you drop into flow and live through the openings every single day? And that's the 14-day experience. And it comes with a month of coaching with me, group coaching, 2 to 5 times a week. It kind of varies based on my schedule and the holidays. So you'll have that, and you can purchase that program and get up to speed quickly. There's a second program for people who know that they want to go deep, and it's 4-month program, and it is 12 modules, and you do 2 exercises per week, and then you have 4 months of coaching with me. It's called Stress to Happiness. And what Stress to Happiness is, the first 14 days is really about clearing out all your closings and getting as much neural extinction into your mind as possible so that you are as open as you can be by clearing out closings. Stress to Happiness is about finding openings. This is finding the creativity, that wisdom that I was talking about, dropping into the discernment, having that genius and that brilliance come out. That's a 4-month program. If you decide to do the 4-month program, you also get 4 months of coaching with it. I will put as a bonus gift for you, the 14 days in there. So if you get the larger program, you'll still get the 14-day program. Now you can sign up below on this website for either of those. Okay, you can choose. There's a difference in pricing. You'll get to see them. You'll get both programs if you purchase Stress to Happiness. And if you decide that you don't want to do this, I have other things. I have a YouTube channel, which is Fear Free Human. You go to YouTube and subscribe, Fear Free Human. And there I'm doing mini lectures and I'm coaching people live, and you can get a feeling for how this all works. You can get a feeling for watching me take somebody from a closed state into an open state and how magical it is. The other thing that I want to say is that above me, right there, is my email list. If you join the email list, you'll get my mini pods. You get a mini pod every 3 days, which is a short tutorial on how to use your IGS. It will not get you the coaching, and it will not get you the way that I do my trainings is I take you to the next exact right place where you are. So you don't even have to think about personal development anymore. You do the practice and then your life changes. And then you do the next practice and your life changes. And they're short lectures, 15 minutes or less, with a little exercise. I call the way I teach the Miyagi approach. If you saw the old Karate Kid with wax on, wax off from Daniel-san, okay, if you saw that, what happened is Daniel was given these practices to wax the car, right? And he was working, and he thought he was working for karate lessons. But what ended up happening is he was learning how to do karate blocks, right? So what I do is I give you a practice and you learn it. And you are using your IGS without your mind getting in the way, because your mind's what's like, I'm not getting it. I don't understand it. Am I doing it right? We want to get your mind out of the way. Okay. And the problem is that you can't figure out how to have a new thought. So it's, even though I'm going to give you the little micro learnings when you join the email list, and definitely do it, even no matter what, you want to join my mailing list because they're really cool and watch the coaching. It's really hard to figure out where to put your thinking. So I'll give you an example. We had a woman that came in, that's one of our students, who was studying, and she was behind in her taxes. And she was getting letters from the IRS about having to pay them and that it was getting dire. And she, every time she'd go to pay her taxes, it would have taken up all of her savings, but she was going to do it. She was closed, which means what you're thinking is not something you should do. Do not push through a closing. If you're feeling the tightness, don't push through it. It will cause chaos in your life. It'll wreak havoc. And so she kept coming to the coaching call going, Zen, every time I go to pay my taxes, I close. And I'm like, don't pay them, which is, I can only hold people's feet to the fire because I've worked with so many people. And I know that this is always the truth. If you push through a closing, you'll regret it. So this was about a month and a half that she was coming in saying, I'm still not getting an opening to pay my taxes. So she was standing in line at the bank one day, and the banker came up and said, hey, have you thought about refinancing your house? And she said, no. He said, let's look at it. The interest rates have gone down. Do you know what your interest rate is? And she told him, and he says, we can get you a much better interest rate. So they sit down and they're going through the application, and it gets to this place, and he goes, pulls up the property, and he goes, oh, I see you're behind in your taxes. And she goes, yes. She said, I was so embarrassed. And he goes, well, you want me to roll them into the loan? What happened is she got to roll her taxes into the loan. Her payment was reduced by $700 a month, and she got to keep her entire savings. Your internal guidance system knows things. It knows your life's blueprint. That magic and synchronicity that I was telling you about, the miracles that's happening in nature, we are supposed to have those in our life. And there is a optimal blueprint out of any situation that you're in. You're only a few opening thoughts away from being back on your blueprint and things working out. And then the challenge can be, without support, it gets really scary. Like if she didn't have me to say, trust me, hang in there, wait, let's see what happens, she would have paid her taxes, wiped out her savings, and still had this huge mortgage that she was going to be behind and not able to catch up. This happens all the time. I went through cancer, and when I felt the lump in my breast, I opened when I thought, this is different. This lump feels different. This is cancer. And I opened, which means that's true. And then I was able to use that as I went through my cancer journey to make all the decisions about what to do into the opening. I had a completely fear-free cancer journey, and I'm completely cancer-free with a 1% chance of reoccurrence. I've had people who were wanting to take risks in their life to go and do something, and they waited years and years. We had a woman who was a dancer, and she had been taking ballroom dancing lessons for years and did not have the courage. She was closed, fearful about actually competing. In our course, she discovered that she was closed, and it opened her to compete. And within the first year, she got national champion. Over and over and over again, as you simply move through the closing with these little beautiful practices, as you simply move through the closing, you'll find that you open. And that opening brings you back into alignment with a life that truly will work for you. Now, before I go, and I'm about to, I know you, thank you so much for listening to all of this if you've stayed this long. What I want to do is I want to share with you how it feels. I want you to take a moment and think about something in your life that is causing you anxiety, that is causing you worry or fear. Think of something. Maybe it's a aging parent that you're worried about. Maybe it's a health issue you have. Maybe it's a relationship you're in. Maybe it's money or retirement. Okay. Now, really think about that and feel where it's showing up in the center of your body. Feel that? That tightness? Maybe it's a lump in the throat, a tightness in the chest. Go ahead and touch it. Feel it. Where are you feeling it? Now, I want you to hold this thought. This is one of the first practices. Don't question it. Don't argue with it. Don't let your mind do anything. Just hold this thought purely. And here it is. I am closed. That means what I'm thinking is not true or not going to happen. Just say it a couple of times silently in your head or out loud. I am closed. That means what I am thinking is not true or not going to happen. I want you to notice, say it again. Notice the easing that's happening. That's because I am closed. That means what I'm thinking is not true or not going to happen is a more aligned true thought for you. And you'll notice the instant release. Now go back to thinking about your stressful situation. Notice you tighten back up. You have the capacity to release this tension or keep ruminating on the thoughts and make it stronger. This is a guidance system that is visceral in its in action. It's happening all the time. Okay, all the time. And so this is what you do is you learn how to move into that easing, and over a very short period of time, that tightness isn't there anymore because you're listening to the guidance and shifting it as you go. You do not have to live in anxiety and worry and fear and overwhelm and irritation. You do not have to procrastinate. You do not have to feel guilt. You can know what actions to take, what decisions to make, but by moving into the opening. Okay. This is a very, very powerful tool that you have been born with that is yours. And all you have to learn is how to decode it and understand the guidance, and your life changes. Isn't that amazing? I'm on a mission to create a fear-free human species. That's why the name of my company is Fear-Free Human. I know that after having taught so many people and watching them become fear-free, that we as a human species do not have to have fear anymore. I am on this mission because I can see a world where we do not have fear, where there is no longer any lack or greed. We are no longer destroying our environment because we are centered in ourselves, and we all have what we need before we need it based on following our own unique blueprint. And we all, in following our unique blueprint, create a world that's harmonious. Now, that may sound like pie in the sky, but I can tell you that you do 14 days of studying your IGS and you will feel it yourself, how different our world looks through the lens of following the openings. Anyways, I hope to see you on the other side. I'd love to have you study with me. I'd love to watch your life blossom and change like I've gotten to watch 40,000+ people. I hope you join. Make your choice between the two and what you want to do. You get instant access, and then you can start. You'll immediately have the coaching schedule, get into the program, super small. You'll see the thing that people love most is there's super small little practices that make a massive difference. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thanks for listening to all this. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you. Bye for now.